I don't know how many times I've started this video by saying this, but Pakistan cricket, the gift that keeps on giving more and more emotional trauma to its followers. I mean, we discussed. I mean, there were some personal reasons as well, but we didn't do a review of the first Test match because eventually, we kind of suspected this might happen. So rather than doing it
So we do
in
all
two
one go.
episodes, we'd save time and just combine in one because it'll be a copy paste anyway. Um, but yeah, just as you thought things couldn't get any worse, let's take it back 12 months, right? The Asia Cup 2023.
When we started doing the
Um,
podcast, I'd like everyone to know
pretty much, yeah. I think, yeah. Um, got smashed for 350 for two against India, which was the downfall of everything. Lost to Sri Lanka, couldn't qualify. Lost to Afghanistan at the World Cup. We thought that's the worst. Nothing can be worse than that. Lost 3-0 to Australia. Like, fine, whatever, it's the same thing. Lost to the USA in the World Cup. And we're like, okay, it's an
Don't
upset.
forget
And then
losing
obviously
to New Zealand, both away and at
drew,
home to a B
yeah,
string team.
drew against New Zealand D at home in what's meant to be your stronger suite. And then, yeah, Bangladesh first test lost at home. And then second test match, having Bangladesh at 26 for 6, still managing to lose. I don't think it gets any worse. And for all of those, well, I'm not sure there are many left who were telling us that we are just criticizing Pakistan cricket for the sake of it. And we are just talking negative things. I'm sure it's just Moin and my negative energy that has gone through the universe and ended
Clearly,
up.
clearly. I mean, the fact that it actually coincides with when we started doing the podcast, clearly we are to blame here. I mean, it's everyone but the players, it's everyone but
Yeah.
the management, it's everyone but the infrastructure. Blame it on the fans, They're not being, supportive enough. Look, I mean, it can't get worse, but what I don't like is how people are calling it a surprise, especially the first test victory. What a shock, upset. It's not. It's not for a team that has consistently lost to, I don't want to say minnows because we're the minnows now, but like, lost to like, USA, yes, Afghanistan. And for me, it's like, which one is worse, right? Yes, there's the USA because it's the USA, but also remember it's a T20, right? Then you think of Afghanistan in ODI cricket, which I think was the first real shock. I mean, I know you mentioned Asia Cup and all, but I think that a loss
Yeah.
to Afghanistan really opened the floodgates to feeling as if it's not just the good teams that we freeze against or we bottle. It's even these teams, right? We are the banana
Yeah.
skin fixtures for everybody. So that really opened it. And then you had the New Zealand D team that we drew against, and we said, you know what? We always do badly in bilaterals, but we come good in the global marquee tournaments. But then that has now stopped. But for me, the worst is losing a test at home to Bangladesh. I know Bangladesh is a better team than the USA, but to lose a test match which is over 5 days, and it's not like you lost any of them because let's say you won 4 out of 5 days, but you had a horrible day in the middle or at the end, which meant you lost the game, like happened in Sydney against Australia or all these things. No, no, no. You have consistently been outplayed in nearly every session, every day. So for me, this is the worst of the lot because it is consistently over, I think, 9 days, and the
Yeah.
10th day obviously was rained off. So for me, it was rather 2 days rained off. But yeah, you, you get the point, right? And
Yeah.
um, it's not an upset. It's not a surprise. I think Pakistan was headed in this direction. I think for a long time we had these one-off successes that stopped us from going and seeing the underlying issues. Now
Yeah.
the underlying issues are on the surface, right? And I'm sorry to say, the real cause of it all isn't your coach. Okay, yes, you can blame the captain a little bit, yes, of course, the infrastructure, but really it's talent. Okay, it's the dearth of
Yeah.
the system bringing talent to the fore. Now, I'm not here saying that in a country of 200 million people we can't find any talented people. No, we absolutely can. It's just we're unable to find them, we're unable to unearth them, right? That's for me. Now it's pretty obvious. When you have a flat wicket, which seems like a seaming wicket when you're batting, but a flat wicket when the opponents are batting, and all respect to them, but it is not the best opponents in the world, that just tells you you just lack in quality. Quality, which is talent basically, as well as discipline, right? And
Yeah.
consistency. It's like rash shots throughout, right? I'm talking about the batting, ill disciplined bowling, and you are really, really struggling on both talent and discipline consistency when the pitch looks so different depending on who's batting on it.
Yeah. I mean, it's just inconsistency in well batting and bowling. Look, selection. People will say select team selection, all that. But problem is, they you know they did make the brave calls in the second test. Going to specifics, Abrar Ahmed, like we've been saying, is the best player in Pakistan when he's not playing, but ineffective on a day 5 or a day 4 pitch,
I mean, it's
effectively
absurd.
in Asia. I mean, this is the other thing, right? I mean, if you had to choose, okay, fine, Pakistan lost the toss in both matches, and technically the pitch was green, but it was spinning because the Bangladeshi spinners were spinning it. I mean, Miraz got 5 wickets in the first innings, so there was something in it for the spinners. Um, but also, I mean, traditionally in Asia, you would want to bat first and bowl in the fourth innings. And even if you defend 180, 200, it's meant to be a defendable target. The second test match,
Absolutely.
Bangladesh, and Abrar, who's meant to be your frontline spinner, was ineffective in both innings. You had a good start in the first innings. You got them for 20 for 6 or whatever, which again, we've been going on for so long. And we need to do an episode on this at some point as well about how bad Pakistan are at cleaning up the tail. I mean, it happened in the first match. I think it kind of went, a little
Unnoticed.
unnoticed that
Absolutely. Absolutely.
that
I
Bangladesh were
remember
200
those.
for five in the first,
Correct.
215 for five in the first Test match, 200 runs behind, and they still ended up getting a lead of 100 and something.
Absolutely. I mean,
Um,
everyone forgets that actually because um, I think they needed about 48 runs to avoid the follow on or something like
yeah,
40 runs. And they were at their last recognized batting partnership. I mean,
yeah.
ignoring Meras for a second, right? And then you felt like, oh, there's a chance we could even enforce the follow on. Now I'm not sure we would have, but still, we were thinking on those lines, and it went unnoticed because you know it was just after we had declared at 440 or whatever, and we were like, yeah, we're going to be aggressive, and to some extent I thought it was a brave call, and I was supportive of that decision at that point in time. And we can come on to talk about that in more detail, but the main thing is you had a situation on two consecutive times when you're unable to clean up the tail. Now I've been reading comments about, oh, we really miss Naseem Shah in cleaning up the
But he was
tail.
there.
I mean, he was there the first game. What do you want about? Like, you always glorify players when they're sitting in the dressing room. If I'm a player, I hope I never play. Because I will probably be given iconic, legendary status like Abrar Ahmed had been all this time, or Naseem Shah was after one test match dropped. He was very ordinary in the first test match. Now, right? So we somehow
And
can't do
now,
it.
just to add to that, now let's talk about Imam Ul Haq being back in the team. Imagine that.
I mean, and,
So
and look, um, the first thing just to complete it, I think for everyone to know is I think you messaged me saying, all right, look at this 26 for 6. When will we drop our star bowler Shaheen and all this? And I think we both were like, yeah, let's just wait till this partnership gets to 100 and then we'll talk. And it did get to 100. It got to 150. It was absurd. It's like we know it's gonna happen. We know, we see the signs, and we know, okay, this is it. 26 for 6. That's it. Shut off the TV. Now we're losing. Look, let's take each point in turn. Okay. First and foremost, right? Let's unpick the bowling. Okay. Shaheen Afridi, for me, is not even close. And I think we said this before. Me and Hamza should have played both test matches. Okay. I think
yeah,
it's a travesty. I think this whole star power status that Shaheen has is just ridiculous. I mean, please look at his stats post
yeah,
injury. They are horrible. Okay. There is no way any other bowler with a stature below his would have ever got to play the first test match. But he did, okay? And he was really hopeless. His, and I think they've been quite open about it, Azhar Mahmood and Jason Gillespie. And I quite like that. I think Jay was
Yeah.
like, yeah, we've given him points to improve on because I think his seam positioning, his wrist position isn't what it used to be, whatever. So
And
there's
when you're
something
getting the
clearly.
number 9, 10 batsmen out when the team scores at 500 and you're doing like celebrations and stuff, I mean,
Yeah, it's
come on, man.
ridiculous.
Like,
It's like, I mean,
it's ridiculous.
who are you, right? I mean, anyway, so that's it. Naseem Shah was, I think, for me, the biggest disappointment because I was expecting him to be more
Yeah.
penetrative with his extra pace, which you could see at certain points would drop, which points to one very obvious thing. And I think Shan Masood has talked a lot about it. We'll come on to captains in a second, but it's fitness, right? And I almost think, the worry that Shan Masood had in the first test match, which I didn't buy at the time. I was like, oh, he was scared of playing three fast bowlers because he was scared one of them would get injured. And I'm like, that's such negative thinking. You should just play your best bowlers. But then in the second test match, that precise thing happened, which makes me realize that the fitness levels are so poor that you are unable to play your ideal bowling attack because you're so scared
Yeah.
some bowlers will break down. And that's really sad. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Mir Hamza is far and away your best bowler, along with Khurram Shahzad, although I think Khurram Shahzad had a bit of good fortune. I think he stopped being penetrative after one session. Mir Hamza was a bit unlucky. I think he would have got a few more wickets. But I do
Yeah.
think your bowling in Test cricket needs to start revolving around these
Yeah.
bowlers, right? I do think Naseem Shah should come back, right? I mean, we just don't have anybody else, and he's had one failing out of what's been a successful time for him. But I think Shine Afidi should be dropped. I think that's it,
Yeah.
right? I'm sick and tired of people throwing in his 21 highlights against India. It's gone. It's over 3 years, you know. So I think that's clear. The other point I'll just mention also is, and we've talked about this a lot, is spin. Okay, I mean, it is so sad that our frontline spinner, looks like a medium, or not even a medium, a slow pace bowler. He's getting zero turn. So I've
Yeah.
seen jokes that he's actually doing this on purpose because he wants to retain his mystery for when we play the World Test Championship final. So
In
uh,
2048 or
in 2048, yes, exactly that, yes. And I'm like, what is this guy doing? And you realize that actually his stats were inflated because England would try to hit every ball of his for six, right?
yeah.
That's why.
Yeah, I mean, look, I guess the other point is Mohammad Ali, of course, your other fast bowler who broke down after 6, 7 overs in the first innings. I mean, the poor guy, I know it was hot and pindy, but I mean, everybody else was bowling and poor guy was like throwing up on the field and stuff. So, um,
It's sad.
so
Like, I mean, this is
yeah,
at home. You're playing at home.
yeah,
It's not like you're going to another part of the world and not using. This is
yeah,
home. This is home turf conditions. You should be playing all these first class games in these very conditions. So,
yeah,
like, we will never get better. Unfortunately,
yeah,
until fitness gets better, fitness is down, which is why we are unable. Like, look at the stats on the pace in the first
yeah,
innings versus the second innings, and look at how much the pace dwindles between the first 10 overs and then like overs 20 to 30, 30, 40, excluding overs by spinners. And
yeah.
you'll see a massive decline, which tells you
And
that your
and and sorry, no, and you'll see how the Bangladeshi bowlers, some of them were up to 148, 149, in their second, third spells. That just shows you, that it's yes, it's skill, but it's also just fitness and consistency, right? I mean, yes, our batters did them no favors by making them look did them some favors of making them look even better than they probably were, but yeah, I think it's lack of discipline. I don't know. No one like Shan Masood also. I mean, said as well, right? Like, I don't know. You're preparing for a science exam, for a math exam, or something like that. I don't know, some philosophical thing along those lines, implying that Pakistan have been preparing or playing white ball players in red ball cricket and they haven't really had the preparation. But I mean, he's been now part of the leadership for the past 8, 9 months. I mean,
yeah.
I'm sure he would have had some say in the selection, but clearly there's been There's been no. And then look on the face of it, at least your bowling attack. These are test specialist bowlers, right? All of them. Well, at least the second test match, and they still end up doing nothing. So it doesn't
Look,
really matter.
honestly, I am getting to a point where I don't even know who your best batter is. Okay, I don't know. I mean, it used to be an obvious, like you know, even Cricinfo have started reverting to the Fab Four. Now it's all Fab
Yeah,
Four. Babar Azam is far away from this whole
it's not even
debate on
close.
I mean, he is so average. And look, when you look at the way he gets out, look, you have to say it's one of two things, right? There's talent, and obviously he's got it. And the second thing is just discipline, consistency, and ability to keep working on your game. You can see he's become complacent. You can see his weight isn't correct. And I'm not even the biggest, best expert in the world, but I can tell you
Yeah,
that he's late when he comes on the front foot. His balance tends to be a bit off. He's not as fluid as he used to be. It's almost as if he's everything becomes a bit of an afterthought for him. So there's that complacency which has come in, and I actually, from really liking him as a person for being really humble, I
yeah,
think the real test of your character is how you do and what you do when things aren't going your way.
yeah,
And that's where, it's very easy to be humble and look down when people are praising you. But the question is, you know, or to ask others for support or just, look up to others when you're doing really well yourself, right? Because,
yeah,
you're always going to get praised. But when things
yeah,
aren't going your way, are you actually focusing on your game? Or are you focusing on the captaincy saga? Or are you focusing on the noise outside the dressing room? Right? It seems to me as if he's maybe his whole everyone around him has propelled him into this king mentality. That he thinks, oh, I made a stupid mistake. Doesn't matter. Uh, I'm so good, I won't do it again. I don't need to do anything. I'll just wait for the next time I'll score 100. No, it doesn't work like that. You
yeah,
clearly have weaknesses, right? It used to be weakness against the left arm orthodox spinners. Now it's a weakness to the ins like oh then it used to be against Pat Cummins. It used to be their in swinging ball, LBW.
yeah,
Now it's out. It's even out swingers that he just plays really lazily, right? Either he gets out of the outside edge, or sometimes it's usually he leaves a lot of gap between bat and pad. So quite similar to the in swinging
yeah,
delivery. But these deliveries that he's getting out to aren't even swinging, right?
yeah,
You can make any ball look amazing by you playing a silly shot, right? I mean,
yeah,
it's really really unfortunate that he does not have the capacity. And I think there's a lot of talk about him being quite stubborn as a captain. I suspect he's quite stubborn as a player as well, right? He thinks he knows what he's doing and he knows better than everybody else. But
yeah.
unfortunately,
I think he's waiting for this too shall pass tweet from Virat Kohli
he's
to
not
turn
getting
his
it.
fortunes around.
He ain't getting it because, and the reason he's not getting it is also because where was him congratulating Virat Kohli when he actually like retired on his career, which shows you didn't really care. Okay, let's be
Yeah,
honest. You just did it because you wanted to show the world that you were on top. Okay, like so. Anyways, I don't want to doubt his intentions, but look, that's Babar Azam. Okay, a lot has been said
yeah,
about him, and I get it's more difficult for him than it was for Kohli because Kohli could rely on other players whilst he was finding form. In this, it's Babar or nobody, right? And I think that's also a big failing of the system.
yeah,
I Pakistan has relied on one or two players for far too long, right? Yunus Misbah. Then it used to be Azhar Ali and Asad Shafiq, who clearly couldn't live up to that. Now it's Babar. It's always one or two players. We used to have a really solid opening partnership. That's gone. That's gone. Like Imam ul Haq, that people talk about him coming back. I think the big failing is Abdullah Shafiq. Again, you
yeah,
started comparing him to Rahul Dravid. I think Babar said that, oh yeah, we call him Dravid in the dressing room. For God's sake. I mean, after 9 test matches, you're giving him status of one of the greatest test batters of all time. Obviously, he's going to get to his head. He's clearly not focusing on
and
just
and a
batting.
very good slip fielder as well, by the way,
Yeah,
which
exactly.
Abdullah
I
Shafiq
mean,
is not.
and he's still fielding in the slips. It's almost like how it is in Pakistan, right? The senior players field in the slip so they don't have to run. Now, Abdullah Shafiq isn't a senior player, but I think he has the reputation. Everyone is talking about how he's going to be Pakistan's new all-format player. How? I mean, 9 test matches and a very average, mediocre white ball career isn't going to get you there. I don't care how good he looks. James Vince used to look amazing. Remember, he was like, oh yeah, the next
Yeah,
big thing. Averages 20 Test cricket, and England dropped dropped him, and you never
yeah,
saw him again. I fear Abdullah Shafiq is going down that trajectory because he's just. I think they're just their heads are too big. They can't. They don't realize that they have a lot to learn, and they're not willing to put in the effort to get fit and actually improve their game. Okay, the
yeah.
only person who I think has actually tried to make an effort to adapt his game to be in line with modern standards is Shan Masood. But in Shan Masood, you have the other problem where I do think his talent and his ability is just not as good as it should be for a number three player.
Yeah.
Sorry to say, right? He has the right approach in the sense that he wants to be aggressive, but if you don't have that hand-eye coordination, you don't have the ability. It unfortunately, you're always going to be a bit limited. I was very frustrated that he's got out after starts day in and day out, right?
Yeah.
And I don't. Is he good enough to be a number three player for a supposedly leading test team? I'm not sure.
Yeah, especially given the starts that the team have been getting, right? Losing early wickets in every single. I think each of the four innings they lost a wicket before 10. So
Yeah,
I
and look,
mean, yeah, it doesn't.
yeah, I mean, I do have some sympathy with one of the dismissals where he got a bit annoyed,
Yeah,
but it's not as if, oh, if he didn't get out there he would have made 100, right? It's not like,
yeah.
oh, he always makes 100. Like, no, he doesn't. If he didn't
I mean,
get
yeah,
out there, he'll
and to
get out
that
when
point
he's
as well,
100.
right? Yeah, and to that point also, like Bangladesh's feeling was pretty average or
So
below average throughout as well. I mean, they dropped so many chances. Babar got dropped first ball, Rizwan got dropped first ball, and still, we gave them. I mean, if eventually, whatever we scored in each of the innings for 13 or 14 down because they gave us so many chances. And we were obviously equally charitable and probably gave them a few more chances. But they made use of it. And in typical fashion, when Pakistan drop catches, the opposition capitalizes. Whereas if the Pakistani batters get a life, they are charitable and they're like, here you go, here's another
absolutely,
chance.
absolutely, I totally agree.
Whether it's with reviews or drop catches or whatever. And look, I mean, just on the batting in general, right? And this has been a theme for the past. I mean, it's been a theme for Pakistan batting for a while, but specifically in the last 4 or 5 series, where in each of the fourth or the third innings, whenever the batting, the second batting innings, they collapse so badly. It happened in Australia. And it's like they lose like 7, 8 wickets in a session.
Yeah,
It's happened in both matches where you just completely capitulate. And again, as Bangladesh showed with the bat in the second innings, that it wasn't just the pitch, right? Because they scored at a pretty good rate. They got to 180 odd. And you folded for 145, whatever, in the previous match, and then 170 in this one with, just bad cricketing shots.
it is passion, and no
And
one wants
since
to
this,
put their hand up. No one wants to put their hand up and
exactly.
say, all right, we're getting into a bit of a rut here. I'm going to stick it out. I just
Yeah.
don't feel like.
Even Salman Aliaga, who technically on paper, yes, he scored a 40 and a 50, whatever, but I mean, he got dropped twice, right? So it's not like.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, look. I mean, I think our best batter has been Rizwan and Salman Aga. I mean, sorry, South
Yeah.
Shakil. One good innings doesn't cut it. Like
Yeah.
he's been like again. This is my big issue with South Shakil, and I've said this before. Sometimes I feel the hunger is missing. Like I feel he looks like a rabbit in front of headlights. Like he'll score one really good innings and then he'll just get out without any application, lapse in concentration, and it's almost as if he's given up, right? He's like, oh, I've done my either. Well, I don't know. Like I know he's a hardworking cricketer. I know everyone
Yeah.
applauds his attitude, so I don't want to go into detail there. But look, the best example, I'm going back to Babar, is this. There was a time when Babar Azam used to be shell shocked when he got out. He'd be like, oh, what did I just do? And we'd all be shocked. And we'd be like, this guy cares so much about his runs and him getting out that he is shocked when he makes a mistake. It was applauded that this guy who folks, and he, that, okay, next time he won't make that mistake. But now he happily walks off. Like, he'll be like, oh, and then he'd be like, oh, and then he walks off. And, and, none of that, like, it's just, and I feel that's quite emblematic of
Yeah.
Pakistan's batting. They know what their flaws are, right? They know they're going to
Yeah.
get out. And it's no longer surprising. Okay. I mean, barring your number 6 and number 7, Honestly, I
Yeah.
don't see a future with this team. I really,
Right.
really don't. I think this is a team that never
Yeah.
deserved to win any silverware, right? Whether it's the ICC T20 World Cup, ODI World
Yeah.
Cup, the I think we just have to wait for this team to run its course and like look for the
Yeah.
next group of talent, right?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
do I think Barber needs to be dropped? Potentially. And the reason I say that
Yeah.
is not because of Barber himself, but I think everyone around Barber also relies on Barber. And so, you know what, I don't need to
Yeah.
focus. Barber will save the day. And if Barber doesn't save the day, everyone's eyes will be on Barber and not me, right?
Yeah.
So, it'll be like, oh, I did really badly, but so did Babar Azam. So all good, right? If he can do
Yeah.
badly, if he does badly on this wicket, that means, what chance, what hope do I have? And luckily, all the scrutiny will go to Babar Azam, so I'm safe. So I want to drop Babar Azam and say, you know what, Babar, you can focus on your game outside.
Yeah.
Everybody else, no more waiting for the king to save the day.
Yeah.
You have to go and do it. And the scrutiny is very much on each and every one of you now, right?
Yeah.
I do
No, I
believe
agree.
that that is the way forward, right? Babar Azam will definitely make a comeback. I'm confident that okay, we can give away the whole thing about him being one of the greatest ever, but he'll hopefully end up being a good batter. And I'd like to think that he will go back to, like, everyone talks about that 196 against Australia. And that was a brilliant innings. But remember,
Yeah.
he didn't win the game. He saved the game, which is okay, as good as winning a game given the situation, but it isn't winning the game. He needs to
Yeah.
just get better at that and just making sure he's there till the end. After the New Zealand game in 2019, I don't think he's won a massive, massive game in a long time. So maybe the T20 against India, but whatever. So that's what I do. And everyone else needs to come up good and say, this is your last chance saloon. You can't
Yeah.
keep getting chances after this. Everybody needs to step up. And if you can't step up, that's it, right? But no relying on the one guy who gets all the media scrutiny. So that's what I do.
Mm. Right.
Coming on to
So I.
talk about
Yeah.
the biggest question,
Yeah.
and that's Shan Masood. And I know everyone's going to open up all our previous videos, and I've literally been his biggest
We did predict
supporter.
2-0, by the way, but it was just the wrong way. But we did predict the right
We
score at
did, yeah,
least.
exactly, yes, yeah, that's our saving grace. Um, Look, I think there are quite a few debates and questions here
Yeah.
where it could have so easily worked out differently for Pakistan. Okay, the first and foremost, right, which I've had a lot of criticism and I've seen a lot of it from all quarters on the declaration. Okay, first innings declaration. Look, I am not a result merchant. What I mean by that is I'm not somebody who decides how what I think about a decision based on the result. Because sometimes that clouds your judgment. Now I know the aim is to win the game, and if you haven't won the game, that means it's you need to question that decision. Okay, I think in Rawalpindi you lost today. It's the pitch is meant to be really flat, and
Yeah.
quite honestly, you had faith in your bowlers, right? You were boasting a Shaheen Afridi Naseem Shah led attack, who felt they could, see out Bangladesh's traditionally fragile batting lineup. So I agree. To be honest, I agree with the approach, so long as Shan Masood told Rizwan and whoever he was batting with at the time that, look, you have another half an hour. We need 1 hour tonight to go at the
Yeah.
Bangladesh batters, right? Because that 1 hour before close, full of nerves, new ball, under the
Yeah.
setting sun, anything can happen. So you have another 20 minutes to go. Try and go for your double hundred or try and score quickly as many runs as you can. But
Yeah.
whatever it is, I will have to call it in half an hour. Okay, because we need
Yeah.
at least an hour. That is a like a
Yeah.
complete, like not up for debate. And I think that's what happened because you saw Rizwan was trying to accelerate, but
Yeah.
he was cramping up.
Yeah,
He wasn't
I think
getting.
that was the other thing. I think because Rizwan's injury, because I know he was a 170, so naturally would have been trying to get him to a double hundred or whatever. But he was genuinely struggling. I mean, this wasn't acting. This is, I think, genuine cramps
Yeah,
because then he couldn't even keep properly, and Sarfraz had to come in for a while to keep. So I think that was part of the issue, where I think if Rizwan kept going, maybe they would have kept going for another 20 minutes or so.
yeah, like
Um,
try to get to
but again,
500, right? 20
yeah,
minutes
but
and
at the
get.
end of the day, look, I mean, it was an Australia style or an England style declaration on the face of it, but still, I mean, 450 if you score that, you would expect to 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 defend. I think that's what he was thinking. I don't. On the face of it, in hindsight, all of those things, yes, you can say that it was the wrong decision. But at the end of the day, you got bowled out for 149 or whatever in the second inning, right?
Exactly.
That's
So
what cost you.
that's what exactly that, right?
So
And the point is, 440 sounds like, oh, now in a normal 5 day game, you'd be like, oh my god, he probably declared in what, the first or second session of the second day, second session of the second day. But
yeah,
remember, you lost a day due to rain. Okay, let's just
yeah,
try and remember that for a second, right? Or okay, well, not the full day, but you lost quite a bit, right? In the first test match, wasn't it? I can't
yeah. You lost like half the day. Yeah, you were like, yeah, yeah,
exactly. So because of that, you had to, bear in mind that 440, if you were to sort of, think of an equivalent for a full 5 day game, would have been close to 500, maybe a bit less.
yeah,
Okay, so the idea was that at the end of the day, you wanted to have a go at the batters, right,
yeah,
of Bangladesh, right? Which is, and if you told them, and I think Sean did tell them that, look, this is a non-negotiable, that we need to get a few hours, like an hour at them this
yeah,
evening. It's just your bowlers were just toothless, right? And your batting second time round was even more toothless. So I don't blame Shan Masood, the captain.
yeah,
I blame Shan Masood, the batter, as a number three batter, as one of the key culprits in that batting debacle. But that's for me.
yeah,
And just to correct what I said earlier, just please bear in mind, when Bangladesh were 220 for five, the reason they needed, I think they needed to get quite a lot to avoid the follow on, is because of the delayed start, which meant, I think, the
No, but
follow
that
on.
was only in the second. No, that was only
Oh,
in
the
the
second
second
match.
match,
I
not in the
apologize.
first.
I
Not in the
apologize.
first match,
I apologize.
because the first match, the game actually started on the first day.
I
But
apologize.
that only
I
the
apologize.
150 follow on rule comes into effect when it's
Yes, yes, yes.
when the
Yes,
full
yes.
days
Sorry,
was
I got
washed out.
confused
But
between the
yeah,
two test matches because they were so
yeah,
similar.
yeah.
But yes,
So
but
so
yeah, that's it. The other thing was also question of whether he played the right combination. Okay, now I think that's the one that you can really argue the toss on. But really, if anything, the second test match should tell you that it wasn't the worst of calls in the first test match. Abrar Ahmed was completely useless in the second test match, and you had a fast bowler who had to leave the field after bowling 6 overs in the first innings. So you
yeah,
now can understand, as crazy as it sounded, you can understand the, because of fitness
yeah,
levels or your lack of spin quality, which you can't see because you're not sitting in the dressing room,
yeah,
the rationale. For me, the bigger question was, why didn't Mir Hamza play that first wicket? When you have a green top, why did you go for Shaheen Afridi when really Mir Hamza was, in my opinion, your best bowler after Ahmed Jamal in Australia? I thought that was a
yeah,
real travesty, right? And I'm glad that he came in the second game, but I would have personally have played Mir Hamza, right, either in place of Shaheen or even in place of Muhammad Ali or whatever.
yeah,
And in the second game, perhaps I would have dropped Shaheen, but realizing if I was Shahan Masood that my job is on the line and we need to win, I would have perhaps still gone with Naseem Shah in place of Muhammad Ali. Even though he was useless, he wasn't good in the first game because I just felt we lacked in experience in the second test match. That's what
yeah.
I would have done. Again, hindsight is a wonderful thing.
Yeah, look, I think as we discussed, right, it came down to quality rather than just personnel. At the end of the day, the bowling attack in the second test wasn't exceptionally that much better. Okay, they didn't concede 500, but in the relative context of the game, they were equally bad.
Correct. Yeah.
So yeah, look, and I think the other thing was obviously the fielding was atrocious, right? I mean, we had Bangladesh 26 for six, but remember Mir Hamza first ball of the first innings,
South
South
Shakil.
Shakil dropped.
South Shakil. Yeah. There you go.
Or all that build up and everything. You got bowled up for 274, and you're all kind of on your way down. And first ball, you get a chance to take a wicket and you drop it. So yeah, the fielding obviously is I don't think we've mentioned that enough, but I think we mentioned Shahan Masood's captaincy and all that. I don't think the fielding has been this bad as it's been in these five test matches. We in Australia, the amount of catches that have been dropped every time we think, okay, now they'll learn and improve, now they'll learn and improve, but it's just getting worse and worse. And I don't know whether it's a mentality thing, it's a focus thing, conspiracy theory thing that Sharma is the captain, so they're not going to push that hard.
There's a bit
But
of that. You saw that video of
uh,
Shine Afridi asking Shan Masood to take his hand off his shoulder. Like,
yeah, apparently there's been some, yeah, I mean, the rumors about some physical altercations and stuff, but I don't know.
I mean,
In
Jason
the dressing
Gillespie would be
room.
like, "What on earth is this?" I mean, Australia were aggressive at oppositions, but here Pakistan are aggressive at each other. But
Yeah,
look, I mean,
yeah,
look, there is that, and I think that's because Shan Masood hasn't been able to command respect as a player, right? And I think that sometimes, and I hate to say this, I'm going to bring a bit of Pakistani mentality into it, where Shan Masood is a bit different in that he's probably more educated. His English is probably better than his Urdu, and a bit of that. And I think there is a bit of a cultural divide there between Shan
yeah,
Masood and a few of the other players who probably don't
yeah,
respect his authority, which I think is
yeah,
unfortunate, right? Because Babar and Shaheen may be better players and more accomplished players, but unfortunately they're terrible. They've been terrible captains, right?
yeah,
I'm not saying Shahan is much better, but I do think it's tough to argue he's much better when he's 5-0 down, including home test defeat. But the one thing I will say in defense of Shan Masood is you've given Babar Azam a long run, right? I think
yeah,
and in fairness, Babar Azam did succeed quite a bit during that run, but I think he had a team that was more in form. Shan Masood has a
yeah,
team that is at an all-time low. Hasn't won a test series a test match in Pakistan since 21. Hasn't won like a global tournament in so many years. Has lost constantly against teams considered lower quality than them consistently, right? Morale is at an all-time low, things that Babar Azam
yeah,
didn't have to contend with early in his captaincy career. So I do genuinely believe that Shan Masood has had a tougher job, and he's inheriting a disunited
dressing room. Yeah,
dressing room compared to Babar.
yeah,
So all things considered, I think it's a bit unfair to judge Shan Masood on these 5 test matches, only because you can tell that the guy has tried, right? He has
yeah,
tried to think outside the box. He has tried to go. Like, I thought it was refreshing in Australia. He said, everyone is talking about what spinners will we have, but he's like, you know what, we don't need spinners in Australia, which it proved to be the right call for 2 out of 3 test
yeah,
matches. So, decision. I think the big criticism with Shan Masood is how he handled the his field placements during certain times in the game, where I thought
yeah,
there were times when he switched off, and maybe that is lack of experience as captain and game awareness. It was when I think Lytton I think it was Lytton Das farming the strike. You're literally
yeah,
giving him a single of the second last ball of the over. For God's sake, what you should always do is give, okay, first 2 balls fine, maybe third ball also fine, give him open singles. After 3 balls are up, when you have less of the over left, bring the field in, make him go
yeah,
over the top, make him search for a
yeah,
single, because the other batter had clearly shown that he could
yeah,
survive 2 or 3 balls, right? Or 1 or 2 balls, so make him survive for longer, you know and or maybe, okay, maybe 2 balls or whatever it is, but doing just bringing the field in at the last ball of the over after they've in most cases already taken the single, it was
yeah,
absurd. And it was really frustrating to see that after it happened multiple times where you had given away the single and only had one last ball of the over to bowl to the tail ender, he wasn't quite adjusting until much later. So that for me, now, yes, he adjusted versus one more than Babar Azam, but I do feel that he could have been quicker there. It's a bit
yeah,
disappointing. Second, I think you'll remember today, um, after a while, we weren't even looking for the wickets, right? Field placements were like really
yeah,
wide back. Now, I don't know whether part of it was because he felt that he didn't have enough runs on the board. I mean, for God's sake, you never had enough runs on the board.
yeah,
The only way to win the game is 10 wickets, right? And I did feel sometimes he'd become too defensive, which I think is a byproduct of him having lost so many
yeah,
tests. If you remember in Australia, he was overly aggressive. And it actually, forget the result
yeah,
of 3-0, it actually paid dividends in those moments. He got key wickets of set batters
yeah,
out when he did unconventional things. I'm scared the results not going in his favor is making him be even
Yeah,
more defensive and it basically be what we don't want him to be, right?
yeah.
And that's the
Which is going to be
unfortunate.
another Babar Misbah kind of a
Exactly,
captain.
exactly. Right.
Yeah,
And
and
he's going
back
to
in the
lose
same.
even more there, right? Because he does
Yeah,
not have the quality that Misbah had in like drawing out matches. Because you had batters like Yunus and Misbah who would like bat for like 3 days, and you
mm.
had bowlers who would at least be quite disciplined, right?
Right.
So
And in from Yasser Shah back in the day, right? So at
exactly.
least
So
in the
you
fourth
could
innings.
exactly you could score 600 and then know that your bowlers will get 20 wickets, and you can't lose the game, but you're most likely to win it because of your bowling,
Yeah,
right? But Mitzvah's always first thing was don't lose the game, be in a position where you can't lose, and then you have enough quality in your team to then force a result, which is what happened. You don't have that quality anymore. At the moment, you
yeah,
need to be aggressive from ball one, otherwise you will you'll either play really defensive cricket and lose
yeah,
playing defensive cricket, so you might as well lose playing aggressive cricket. Is my honest assessment.
yeah.
Also, by the way, remember Misbah was very lucky with tosses in the UAE. He won
Yeah.
God knows how many tosses, and next day I knew, oh, Pakistan were batting first, and I knew we were all good. The
Yeah,
second Test match against New Zealand in 2014 was the first time he lost a
yeah,
toss and bowled, and you remember what happened. We were staring at a total of like 500 plus, and we capitulated. So
yeah,
I do think there's a bit of luck there.
yeah. No, and the only other point I'd add to Sean's captaincy issues is, you know, maybe reading too much into it, but you had Salman Ali, who was your frontline spinner in the first Test match, and you went from that to making him not bowl at all
True.
when your other spinner was completely ineffective.
Completely
And then
ineffective.
he took a couple of wickets at the end. Okay, fine, it was the tail and whatever. But still, when you see Abrar being ineffective and you trusted Salman Ali in the previous match to be your frontline spinner, why not give him a go earlier? I mean, this blind support of Abrar just because you've picked him, you need to bowl him non-stop when he's got zero threat. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. But look, I think we've discussed a lot of the problems and the issues. Just spend a couple of minutes fast forwarding solutions and maybe just wrap it up into one. 1 month's time, England's coming to Pakistan, the first test in Multan on the 7th of October. All your
Yep.
solutions into one. What's your starting 11, including captain and all of that stuff?
Look, unfortunately, a month isn't
The
enough.
11 that you want to play, not the 11 that you think will play.
Yeah, fair enough. Look, honestly, I don't think a month is enough to have drastic changes. I know. So look, I think Babar Azam should play this series as his last chance. Okay, I think he will play this. No, forget what he will. I think he should, only because I don't think we've had time to groom. This Bangladesh series would have been ideal in the second Test match to groom, or first even to groom somebody else. But against England at home, I think you can't help but give Babar a shot. So I would go with. Um, I would give. This is very difficult because I'm struggling for quality. So there's Ghulam. I think there's Ghulam who I think should make way. And he's an opener, isn't he, Ghulam?
Yeah, yeah.
So I
He's an
would
opener.
play him.
There's Ghulam,
I
there's Hurera.
You aim to win this series against Bangladesh by not testing your bench strength, and neither did you test
Yeah,
your bench strength, neither did you win. That's the point. Now, I
yeah.
would play Sam Ayub and one of Herrera or Ghulam. Okay, I'm gonna drop Abdullah Shafiq. I think at least for the first Test match. I think this. I would play Sam Ayub. I know that's a bit of a like big call here, but I think when you're up
But
against
he's got two
England,
fifties, right? So I mean,
exactly, he's got 250s, and you're playing against
although the
England.
way he got in the second test match first innings, he should be dropped for that only.
Can you
Um,
beat it? I mean, the way he just walked down the wicket, I mean, it's absurd. But look, the thing is, he's up against England, who will be scoring
yeah,
briskly. So I do think he has some additive thing there. So
yeah.
I'd play the two. Sean 3, Babar 4, Saud Shakil 5. I know, I'm getting into a place where
What's
I'm.
the logic? See, you don't give Abdullah Shafiq any room to fail, and then you still giving Babar really long rope.
It's
If
a
you're
very
dropping,
difficult thing for me. And I think the only reason I'm going to
yeah,
do that is only because, look, Abdullah Shafiq has far limited career, right? In fact, I'd say half his career has been failures. More than half his career has been failures. You can't yet say that about Barber, but I'm still saying Barber should be dropped if he doesn't succeed in this series. But I just feel that a month isn't enough time to do a drastic change like that.
Yeah.
At least not the
Fair.
first test. That's just my
Yeah.
assessment, right? I know everything I've said about making the others stand up by dropping Barber still
Yeah.
stands. But I just don't think it's enough. I think, it's one of those things where you announce a month before, 2 months before the series that Barber is going to be dropped, and everybody runs to the nets to try and make it happen. But I just don't think we have enough time. And honestly, we're at such a rut
Yeah.
that you just have to hope he finds form and just make it very clear to him that this is his last series if he doesn't perform. Okay, and
Yeah.
even he doesn't need to perform the whole play the whole series. If he fails in the first two tests, he doesn't play
Yeah.
the third, whatever. But Barber should start, right? If I were in England's dressing room, would I want an 11 with or without Babar Azam? Ideally, to
Yeah.
play, I would want without Barber because I just think the team would be weaker without Barber, right? Think of what England would want, right? England would
Yeah.
want a team without Barber because we can roll them over within 3 4 days.
Yeah.
With Barber, I think there's that extra oomph that he does command the respect of, and by that logic, as an England player, I won't want to see him, so I play him. That's why I do it. Okay,
Right.
so I would pretty much have the same seven that played here to bat, unfortunately, because we just don't have options. But I would consider an opening change with Abdullah Shafiq sitting out the first match,
Right.
and yeah, and then the bowlers, no Shine
Mm.
Afridi for me. I'm
Yeah.
going Naseem Shah.
Hmm.
I'm going Khurram Shahzad. In fact, actually, I think there's a case for Ahmed Jamal at number 8.
If
I
he's
think
fit. Yeah.
if he's fit. I mean, nobody has impressed to not have him in. And then I'd have so if Ahmed Jamal is at 8. Then I'm gonna have Naseem Shah, Mir Hamza, and depending on the wicket, nobody knows what the wicket's going to be. But if it's not going to be a Turner, honestly, Abrar was so ineffective.
Yeah.
But because he was successful last time against England, he may just edge out. I know it's really unfair on Khurram Shahzad to lose out after 6 wickets, but I mean, I'm struggling here, right? What would you do? I would like to know what you would do with the four.
With the four, I've got. I'm going slightly more creative, actually. Radical, so to speak. I'll still give Shafiq, and I'll stick with the openers. I'll actually give Ghulam or Hurrera, probably Ghulam because he's slightly more experienced. I'd go with him at 3. I'd go Shan Masood at 4, not your captain. I'd go Rizwan at 5. I'd go Saud Shakil 6. Yeah, and I would go Agha Salman or Amir Jamal, one of those two. Oh, actually, no, I'll go Safraz at 7. I'd bring him in, probably as captain. And I'd go either Salman
Oh my
or.
god!
I mean, honestly, that's what you have to. That's what you have to do. Anyways, and keeper and Rizwan can be a proper batter. Then I think that'll enhance his batting as well because he's now on paper your best batsman. And then probably one of Agha Salman or Amir Jamal at 8, depending on the wicket. And then I'll go Mir Hamza, Naseem Shah, and Khurram Shahzad.
So
That's it.
Abrar doesn't play.
No, I brought. He's going to get whacked around.
Yeah, I just don't think. I think that mystery has gone, right? So I agree. So if
Yeah,
I mean, I play Khurram Shahzad over Abrar. I mean,
yeah,
you can clearly look at him in stats, right? I just think
yeah,
the mystery that England had the first time, which is gone. I think Salman Agha is actually a more conventional, better spinner. To be quite honest with you,
yeah,
disappointing. Shan Masood didn't trust him as much in the second test, right? So
yeah,
right, and do remember Salman Agha had quite a few dropped catches in the first test match of his
yeah.
bowling, right? Like let's remember
True.
that. So anyway, so I would Mir Naseem, Khurram Shahzad. Sorry, Mir Naseem, Khurram Shahzad, Amir Jamal, and Salman Agha. Right, these are
Yeah.
my 5. You had, but don't you think you're one bowler short? You only have 4 bowlers.
Well, if we have Amir Jamal,
It's
Yeah,
Amir Jamal or Salman Agha at 8, right? So then you have,
yeah.
so it's only four. And with fitness being an issue, I think that's a. I know Shan Masood
Yeah.
can bowl military medium, but he's going to get whacked.
No, no, no. Yeah, let's see. Maybe, or maybe you just. The problem is I don't want to put anybody else at. I don't. If you put Shahid 3, Rizwan 4, Saud 5, Salman Ali Agha 6, Safraz 6, Safran Ali Agha 7. Maybe that, yeah, that could work. And then you have Amir Jamal. Maybe that's the other way. But then I wanted to move Shan to 4, and I wanted to find another solution at 3. That's why I had to bring in an extra batter in instead of Babar.
I have a
But
solution. I have to say that's very creative. And I mean, I have to say it's impressive, and I applaud it, because great to see Safraz Ahmed. Because you're like, you know what? We're so desperate. We're bringing back a 37-year-old as a captain, and also as someone who bats really well in Pakistan. I think that's a really
yeah,
good shout, because he doesn't, because forget his failings in Australia. In Pakistan, he is excellent, right?
he got like
So
4 consecutive 50s against New Zealand or something, right? So
yeah, so there is a real benefit there to do. So and look, personally,
hmm,
if you go with that team, fine, right? I think then Safras comes in at 6, and you have strength, and obviously there's no Babar Azam. Now, if I go with that team, I think it's a good team. I would make a couple of changes to that team,
hmm,
right? I would keep Shan Masood as captain only because, and I would make Safraz Ahmed your vice captain. I know you made Saud Shakil for these two test series, but you'd have somebody with and you give
yeah,
Safraz Ahmed the authority to support. It's not like a vice captain without
yeah,
being called a vice captain. You make him the vice captain. So tell everyone that
yeah,
he's your number two, and he's the only one who can guide Shan Masood, right?
yeah,
Keep it like that. I think it's
yeah,
like if you change captains, what happens in a year's time, right? Like I I, I think you've backed Shan Masood, and I don't think he's done as much wrong as people
yeah,
say he has as a captain. So what I would do, I would take your team, I would make two changes to them. One, I would make
hmm,
Shan Masood open the batting. Okay. I think
yeah,
and I know it's a bit radical because he's tried to recreate himself as a 3-4, but he started his career as an opener, and I would open
yeah,
with him. Okay. If just to slot people in a bit, okay? Because if I open with Shan Masood,
yeah,
and Sam Ayub, so two lefties, but whatever,
yeah,
then number three, I actually thought of this and I forgot, is Babar Azam. I know this
hmm,
whole obsession with having your best player at four, but I
hmm,
think that doesn't always work for everyone. Everyone is different, right? Babar Azam is infinitely better against space than he is against spin. Your number four needs to be equally good against space and spin, right? Kohli was at four because he's very good
yeah,
against both. Same with Joe Root. But look at Ricky Ponting. Ricky Ponting played at three, right? Because he accepted that he was phenomenal. The pull shot against
yeah,
spacers, his game. So maybe instead of dropping Babar, why not have him at number three? Why not have him play the sort of bowling that he loves, which is pace, right?
yeah,
You'll notice when he comes in after, a good stand from the openers and number three, and he comes in at 150 for two, usually the spinners are on at least from one end. And he doesn't, his issue is not playing spin. His issue is getting his eye in
yeah,
when he's playing spin. He finds it difficult to get into groove and just get his eye in, and get a feel
yeah,
for the game. So maybe and have Barber at three. And then four, Saud Shakil, five Rizwan, six Safraz Ahmed,
yeah,
seven Aga Salman, eight Amir Jamal, 9, 10, 11 Mir Hamza, Naseem Shah, Khurram Shahzad, and Mir Hamza. That's the
yeah.
team. So Abdullah Shafiq sits out here in order to make way for Safraz Ahmed, is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
What
that
what
could
do you think
work.
of that?
That could work. I'd rather still I'd prefer to choose between Babar and Shafiq. I'd choose Shafiq for now, to be honest. Um, or maybe play. I don't know. Maybe just swap the batting order a little bit. Open with Shan and Sam, and go with Shafiq at 3. Maybe that would happen. Then everyone else, yeah, Saud at 4, and then the rest should be fine. But yeah,
Yeah, I think
maybe they can. Also, the fact that Pakistan they have no chance of making it to the WTC final. it just makes it pretty obvious that there's no point in changing the captain anyway, because unless you go with a younger captain, unless you go with Sauchiki or someone else who you think is the captain, is going to be the captain for the next 5 years,
Exactly,
even if they
exactly,
lose.
my point. Because there's no point, because
So
it's not
yeah,
like you need to win these games in order to make, achieve
yeah. If it was
something,
more of a
right? So
short term, yeah, yeah, then yeah.
so I think you
But
just need to just. In fact, it's a good time for Shan Masood to just hone his captaincy and just for us to test him
yeah,
away from the spotlight. He
yeah,
can't achieve anything at the end of it, right? So
yeah,
all he can actually focus on trying and doing the best he can and improving his captaincy and seeing how he
yeah,
goes. And then if he doesn't
yeah,
do well at the end of the cycle, if he still, then you can make it just change. But I
yeah,
don't think making a short-term jerk reaction in order to achieve something in the short term works,
yeah,
because there's nothing to achieve. Now, the other thing I just say is just everyone needs to now remember that Pakistan is not at the level as it was before.
yeah,
We need to get our ego right. I mean, it's a real slap in the face when the team who you wanted playing again behind closed doors, because you
mm,
wanted it to coincide with renovation work, which is just such a big slap in the face to Bangladesh, actually ended up beating you 2-0 at home, right? We need to get
yeah,
our ego in order, okay? Whoever you play when they come home, whether it's
mm,
Bangladesh, Zimbabwe, or Afghanistan, or stop, we have to respect them, and we have to remember that every game we need to consider as
yeah,
match practice, okay? Because we need all the match practice we can get, especially at home. So
yeah,
I mean, I just think it's just
yeah,
we need to adjust
yeah.
expectations here.
Yeah, I think that's yeah, that's a good note to end on. I think adjusting expectations and probably expecting a 3-0 defeat to England
No,
rather than that being a surprise.
yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, well, there you have it. We've got pretty much 2 episodes or 3 episodes worth of content in one for you, but pretty much the same or worse when it comes to Pakistan cricket. But I hope you enjoyed it. We'll have more coming your way. Let's see what happens between now and the England series. But we'll have a lot more content coming your way. Thank you for watching and keep subscribing to our channel. Thank you.
Thank you.